All right, since we're continuing on with our Steam Machine series, I told you guys I wanted to think about like doing some cooling mods to this, even though it's completely unnecessary. You guys overwhelmingly said, yeah, it's pointless, but do it anyway. It might be interesting. So that's what we're gonna do. But I figured before we start mutilating this thing, which hopefully doesn't happen, but I mean, I could just take the guts out of this and stick it in something else and be like, done. I want to talk about the upgradability and or serviceability of the Steam Machine. It definitely slots between being a console and being a PC. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware if you're considering buying one, because apparently between 12 to 15,000 of these are being sold a week, which is way above what I thought they would be. I have no idea if that's even close to the target Valve was hoping for. But apparently that's what they're reporting. Between 12 and 15K units a week are selling, which is kind of crazy. So I figured you should at least know what you're getting yourself in for, especially if you're like, well, I got allocated the 512, I'll just update or upgrade the SSD. What's involved for all that? So today we're gonna kind of dig into it and see what it takes to actually get the Steam Machine to put out a little steam.
Today's video is sponsored by Saily, and if you've traveled international recently, you probably know how important it is to have your phone working the second you land. When I traveled to Taiwan for Computex, the last thing I wanted to deal with after a long flight was figuring out mobile data. And in the past, that usually meant expensive roaming fees, hunting down a local SIM card, or relying on public Wi-Fi just to pull up directions or contact somebody. And that's where Saily comes in. Saily is an eSIM app from the team behind NordVPN that gives you access to affordable mobile data plans in more than 200 destinations around the world. And you can set up everything even before your trip. Just download the Saily app, choose your destination and data plan, install the eSIM, and when you arrive, you're ready to connect. There's no need to swap physical SIM cards, and everything is managed right there through the app. So when you land, you can immediately order an Uber, pull up directions, check your email, or message family without worrying about how you're getting online. Now, Saily also has recently added phone numbers directly inside the app, giving you a real US phone number with voice calls and SMS without physical SIM cards or long-term contract. And it's useful for things like account verification, two-factor authentication, or simply keeping your personal number private. Now, getting started is easy. You download the Saily app, choose your plan, and at checkout, use my code JACE2cents to get an exclusive 15% discount. And if you've got a trip coming up, scan the QR code on the screen right now or head to saily.com/JACE2cents. Again, use code JACE2cents for 15% off at checkout and stay connected wherever your next trip takes you.
So I have no idea how to take this apart. I've not watched any teardown videos or any processes or whatever. I will say this though, one of the first things I'm doing is creating a new faceplate, which all over Thingiverse. There's all kinds of people selling 3D printed ones and whatnot. But it's an opportunity for me to practice modeling because as you can see, I've really kind of been establishing the flow for this, and it seems to make a whole lot of sense. So for instance, you've got these ramps, they're kind of hard to see, but you've got these scoops on the sides right here, where most of the air that's coming through the front is only coming through the edges. Like they're really controlling how much air comes through the front because they want it to use the bottom intake most. That way it travels up through the SSD and other components that are on the PCB to be cooled rather than just going free flow through the heatsink. That way you have some air moving over the parts that aren't attached to the heatsink, like say the RAM and stuff like that. So these scoops I thought were here by design, we might as well at least keep some of that. So this is just one of my early rapid prototypes here because I'm 3D printing my prototypes before I stick them on the CNC and start really wasting material. But you can see it's been a lot of fun though, practicing proper measurement. I'm not using any sort of 3D scanner or anything, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job so far at just, in about an hour I modeled this guy. I've got the scoops in there, I've got the proper recessed holes. I didn't just grab the, what is it, the e-ink front face mod that you can just download their model and then everyone's just adapting off that because no one's taking the time to really like model it from scratch. So I'm enjoying like the learning process here. So I've got my magnets that are gonna go in there. Anyway, so that's besides the point. This little cutout right here, what I'm gonna do is I saw a really interesting idea that somebody said, hey, if you wanna get more airflow through the heatsink, but not necessarily steal it all from the SSD, what if you only ventilated the upper portion? So some air from the top can go through, but then it's still wanting to bring in air from the bottom. So I thought that was a good idea, and that's what's gonna kind of go here. And then I'll come up with some sort of design in the front that looks good. It didn't stick on the bed very well, this one. This is old filament, but all I cared about was this side to make sure everything lines up. This one needs some adjustment. It's off by about 1 millimeter, so we've got a new one printing for that. Anyway, back to the original purpose of this video, which is not the front plate. We just have to take that off. Now, I don't see any screws or anything on the front side right here. I do believe the proper method is gonna be, we have to remove these 2 screws right here. I am using our iFixit kit. No more explosions because they stopped doing any sort of in-house marketing, which is kind of sad, but you know.
No more pyro budget.
No more pyro. All right. Oh, those are captive. Okay, that's kind of cool. So this should just fold down. It's captive and there's magnets, I believe, in there. That's actually a really neat cover right there.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me want to mill one out of aluminum. No, I wouldn't be able to do these tabs on there. It's my understanding though that this thing will slide out like if you've ever dealt with like an old tube TV or like any sort of old console TV, like the guts just kind of like slide out of the case, and that's what I'm expecting this to sort of be like. What I kind of don't want to do though is I don't want to just start removing screws for the hell of it. One other mod people suggested is like, hey, why don't you get some, why don't you make some taller feet? That way you can see if getting more airflow to the bottom would be helpful. So these are all little things I'm kind of wanting to try before I go full out, see if I can't design a monoblock for the GPU, CPU in here, and then see if there's even remotely a possibility of water cooling this thing. I'd love to have it be a fully internally self-contained water cooling unit, but I'm not sure that's gonna be possible. I mean, yeah, I could go with fat 92mm radiators, but this is a pretty beefy heatsink. I think it'd be really difficult for me to match the cooling capacity of that. So I'm not too convinced that that's gonna be the way to go. Okay, so I took the feet off. I did that because I can see it looks like those feet might potentially go up into the board. So I wanted to remove those feet just to be sure. Now, so far the same Torx bit is being used on everything, which is kind of nice. Now I am noticing these screws were a different color, or that one and that one is a different color than that one. I don't think I have to remove that guy. Okay. It is exactly like I thought. That is actually really cool. That's a very unique design. Gosh, it kind of makes me wonder if I couldn't somehow come up with I really want to know if I could somehow come up with it screws in from the sides, but like a metal chassis for this. But I'm getting way ahead of my current abilities, I think, here in terms of modeling and manufacturing. I'm still very new to this. So here's the actual computer right here. This, I believe, is our wireless. Yeah, it's our wireless. These are our antennas right here. So that's our wireless module. That's moved up to there. This is a very dense boy heatsink, but it's only a 4-pipe, it looks like. 2 there and 2 there. There's probably, I don't know if they're unified. We'll have to figure that out. Yeah, so the SSD is definitely easiest to access because this is right here on the bottom. Now it does come with the 2230. Obviously that'd be the cheapest way to do it because it's got the least amount of NAND on it. A single screw right there. You can pop this out, and if you were gonna replace this with a 2280, which is a standard length, it looks like you just have to unscrew this guy. The reason why I'm showing this is if somebody was, damn, it's really in there. If somebody was gonna upgrade this, getting a 2230 is very unlikely. They more than likely get a 2280. But as you can see, they have the provisions for it. So we have crucial drives here. Don't take this as an endorsement. It's just what we grabbed. But one of the questions that was recently asked was like, can you fit one that has a heatsink? Because I'm noticing now there's no active airflow over the SSD at all. It doesn't really need it, but there is the question. So I just switched it to 2280. And then you can see now that will line up with a standard size SSD you would get like at any store. There is a bit of a gap above it. So I am curious though, if one with a heatsink, oh, that barely hangs down. I don't think that's gonna work. And this is a fairly low heatsink. Like the ones that come on like the Corsair drives are even taller. So it's very unlikely you'll be able to get one with a heatsink that works. And here's the thing, even with this heatsink on here, without active airflow, eventually it'll just reach the same temp. It'll just take a little longer to get there. But I feel like I'm re-sleeving like in a freaking action movie. It's like we're trying to slide the uranium back, the uranium core back into the, okay, well.
Nice.
You can, because there's still a gap between the bottom and the top, like there's still a gap under here. So, okay, you can, absolutely. And all the screws line up. See like this fan screw right there? It's not like it's lifted up or anything, so. Okay, you can get one that has a low enough heatsink on the drive in there. All right, so now that we know that that fits, give this video a like and a comment down below if you want us to do a video that talks about how to go from the SSD that came in it to a larger SSD and what it takes to get SteamOS reinstalled back up and running. Because you just plop in an empty disk, nothing's gonna happen. So if you guys want that video, make sure you comment down below, and we're gonna do it anyway. But just, we wanna know how interested you guys are actually in that, because I have a feeling people that really want this and maybe wanted the larger SSD, you only got the allocation you got, right? If you got an allocation for a 512, that means that was the largest opportunity that you were gonna be given. You weren't gonna later get one for a larger drive. So if you said no to that, then that's it. You were out of luck until sales caught up, and then you could order it when it was like readily in stock, which could be who knows how long and who knows how much, because the pricing keeps changing, and it's gonna change. I mean, it hasn't changed yet, but it's going to. Valve has warned when their allocation of current, SSDs and RAM is out, they're gonna be subject to whatever pricing they're being told, just like we're being told. So don't forget, Valve is a customer, just like you and I. So if you guys want that, or maybe you have a larger drive already in-house so you can rip out of a system or something, then we'll do that. I think, because there's a process. It's not a difficult process, but there's a process, and I think you guys should be aware of that. Okay, so we'll give an easy score. I would say out of 10, the difficulty of replacing the SSD is, I'm gonna say a 4, only because the Torx 8 or whatever, T8, whatever size this is, I think it's a T8, we can put it on screen if we're wrong. If you don't have it, you're gonna have to source it, right? Other than that, like, it's literally the 2 screws on the back, and then the cover just folds down, comes off, 2 screws on the fan, and then the whole thing slides out, and then the 1 screw on the drive. It's actually really easy, and they're all the same size.
And the feet.
I don't think the feet had to come out. Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I was right. Okay, so the feet did have to come off. But they all use the same size screw. So, and they're all captive so far, with the exception of the ones on the fan. Let's talk about the memory, because I don't even see it. Okay? And this is the one that's kind of stinky, because from what we're being told, or what we've seen so far, every single unit shipped with 1 stick, which means everybody's unit has the opportunity to double the RAM. And I'm not sure where to go from here, because we have ribbon cables, and ribbon cables are scary for lots of reasons. For instance, we have several daughter boards on here, like the SSD is a daughter board. The USB, or the display port and HDMI is a daughter board. The USB back here is a daughter board. What does a daughter board mean? It means it is attached to the main board through a connector, but it's still necessary for the main board to operate to have this stuff attached. So they're daughter boards instead of motherboards. Get it, mommy, daughter? Where's a daddy board? So I'll be honest, I do not know where to start from here, and I think this is where most people would probably find themselves. This is about the only connector I would have access to grab power for anything if I wanted. And I really don't want to modify that connector. I feel like I'd want to try and source that end off something. And I have a feeling a lot of older PCBs on GPUs and stuff have this connector. I could potentially make a harness that plugs into there, so any power I need, I can just plug into that if I'm not using this fan. But the other crazy thing too, though, is that the wireless connector and all that, which is just taped down right here, for the wireless, all that stuff is attached to the cooler. So this is becoming a bit more complicated in an idea of doing like cooling mods. Like, what is this? Like, this is obviously an antenna, but it's got this attached to it. So if we're gonna treat this as a consumer upgradable, it's only the SSD. Now, to be fair, that's the same thing on the PS5, but the PS5 is even easier than this, because it has just a 1 screw little door that you open up, and it's an expandable drive. So you can expand the storage in a PS5, whereas in the Steam Machine, you have to replace the storage entirely. So the PS5 has its main drive with its OS and the internal storage of whatever size you got, but you get a full 2280 expandable slot, which I really wish they had done with this. I bet you they would have considered doing that if they knew the future was gonna look like it does today. But I don't know. I kind of want to keep tearing into this, but man, I don't want to ruin it, because ribbon cables everywhere. Like, this is already, like, in terms of difficulty level compared to a laptop, it is harder. But this is now where I think difficulty level goes to like an 8 or a 9 potentially. And I'm guessing, because I haven't seen what's under here. I don't think, given the amount of cables that are taped down, glued down, ribbon cables and such, I don't think anyone should be servicing beyond where we just showed you. So that means the upgradability for the RAM not going to be very easy. So at least they're labeled motherboard, SSD. Oh, the board is right here. Oh, I didn't realize the board was up this high.
Yeah, because I think the power supply is what...
Yeah, the power supply is underneath it, you're right. So this is motherboard here. What I'm doing now is on top of the ribbon cables is a little bar that holds it down. And then this should just pop up. You really should not do this with something metal. iFixit does make little plastic pry tools. This should just pop up. Yeah, see? It's not just the kind that have like the exposed, like flat pins. It actually has at least a little socket. So that makes it a little easier to work on. Yeah, so now we have to do the same thing on this side for the display. Remember now, we are in the do as I say, not as I do territory. I really don't think average consumers should. Thank God belly fat caught it. It was like, I was like, don't go in the belly button, I'll never get it back. It's very delicate. There's that. And there's your video output. So we've now detached everything from the bottom. And now we have the front I/O. That has to come off too, I think. This should all be one PCB. I'm glad they use the same screw like everywhere though for like this stuff, you know? Should theoretically have these screws. Should allow the whole front HDMI and the SD card sticking out like that. The micro SD. There's like something under here in the middle. See that, where the way it bows? I don't want to lift. Oh. Ah. Okay, so I thought that was then be very careful with those pins. The worst thing that would happen is I'd lose my micro SD card, whatever. But, so that's rigid. I thought it was it looked like it was a ribbon cable. That just pops off and then that is able to come up. Because you see there's these little locator tabs right here. Okay, so if I were to have these antennas undone, then that would just be free. I'm feeling like I wouldn't have to take the antennas off because the antennas are attached to the cooler, which comes off as a singular unit. So now I feel a little more comfortable trying to proceed. Please be magnetic. Yeah. Okay, these are different than the rest because they are, and that's how the fan comes in and out. Okay, I don't recommend this. I truly, truly don't. Okay, so this has to come off to get to the 4 screws on the cooler. So now I'm kind of unhooking these from the little tabs that are sort of like locating them. That way I can get a little slack, because what I'm hoping is that I can just get to the screws with these like kind of out of the way, and then I don't have to unroute them. See, there's still something attached to it in there. But I can't see it yanking on anything. Like, oh. It's this tape right here. Tape doing tape things. I didn't realize that was taped down. Well, I'd like to point out we've gone this deep and there's still no visible RAM because this is what you see. See, what I don't know is how the cooler is attached. If the cooler is just right now going down and mounting it to the frame, that's fine. The board will come up with the cooler. What I haven't seen here yet either is the power cables that are going from the power supply to the motherboard. So I don't know now if I undo these 4 screws and I break that thermal paste contact, I can affect my temperatures in a negative way or a positive way by repasting it. And I don't want to do that because I want to know what the true effect of me doing my 1/3 cooling mod on the front is going to be. So I have to stop here. I have no choice. But as you can see, for answering the question of user serviceability, SSD, like a 4 of 10 difficulty, RAM, it is a do not attempt, truly. I would only recommend it if you needed to replace it because of faulty RAM or something like that. But then this would be under warranty and you would be sending it to Steam anyway. Because if you do this, even though I haven't seen a single warranty void if broken sticker on this, right? We do have the, what is it, the Magnuson Act, I believe it is, that allows right to repair, but again, that's still constantly always in debate. This is not something you should do ever. So I am now going to go ahead and put this back together and I'm gonna let you guys get on with the rest of your day. But if you want to see what sort of cooling mods I can come up with for this, kind of unnecessarily, honestly, the temperatures on this thing are not bad at all because it's such a low power part. I think you should hit the bell, hit the subscribe, and hopefully this video has taught you something. It's that this is a very impressive small form factor design, that is not exactly user serviceable. I didn't think it was going to be, but this is now confirmed. Do not open this up, because your warranty and your, I don't know, it's just, the likelihood of damaging something is really high. Okay, I've only torn enough laptops and other small electronics apart to feel comfortable with this, but look at the table right here. Do you want to deal with this? Huh? Do you want to be like, oh shit, where did that go again? I don't think so. Because I have a video that I can go back right now and reference if Phil was filming at the time that I needed it to be. But for the most part, I feel comfortable with it because I am above an average user, only slightly. I don't think you should tear this apart. So there you go. Hopefully this has answered some questions about upgradability. We did find out that you can fit an SSD with a heatsink on there as long as the heatsink is only about, I don't know, 10, 12 millimeters tall or so. You should be good. But stay tuned for our next video though, where we'll show you guys how to upgrade your SSD to a 2280 and larger capacity and get your Steam machine back up and running, because obviously when you replace the drive, you replace the OS with it. So we're talking obviously official Steam OS, not like Bazite or anything like that. Although I guess you technically kind of probably could go Bazite on this. If you can go Windows, you could go Bazite. So, but don't do that. You bought the Steam machine, use Steam OS in the official Arch version. I even spit on the table on purpose because it's kind of required for Arch users. So, all right guys, thanks for watching. I pissed off enough of you. We'll see you in the next one.